January 18th, 2018. Passengers and crew are all geared up for a 4-day pleasure cruise to the Bahamas. Tamara Tucker is excited to head out with her longtime love for what promises to be a fun-filled trip. A professor with a Master's of Social Work from the University of Missouri, Kansas City, Tamara is loved by her students and has an overwhelming affection, appreciation, and profound love of life. Little does she know that this will be the end of that love, because this is the night Tamara Tucker will become a statistic.
Violence and assaults on cruise ships has been rising.
If everything fits, then you can go to the next step. If it doesn't, that's where you stop and you start to dig until you get the questions answered.
With ship records showing a trail of the alcohol-fueled first day aboard the ship and evidence showing signs of strangulation, what happened to Tamara Tucker? January 18th, 2018. Tamara Tucker and her longtime love and partner, Eric Newman, embark from Jacksonville, Florida, on a 4-day Caribbean cruise to the Bahamas. On a massive ship with almost 2,200 passengers and 900 crew members. Friends and loved ones see their family off on a pleasure cruise to one of the Caribbean's premier island destinations. A ship almost 3 football fields in length, this vessel has all the amenities. But unfortunately for Tamara, this will be the last night she indulges. A professor of social work at Park University, located in Parkville, Missouri, Professor Tucker is a beloved addition to the faculty, working there for over 10 years. Serving not just as a teacher, but also as a mentor and advocate. Tamara is loved by her students. An assistant professor of social work once said, she spoke the truth, even when others were quiet. Tamara always signs her emails with Namaste, which in Sanskrit means, the spirit in me sees the spirit in you.
Social work is known as the caring profession, and there's a reason for that. It takes a special type of person to do what Tamara does. In her case, she was listening to people who really needed help, who were at their lowest point. They needed her to bring them back again.
Tamara is an eclectic woman, loving music, travel, gardening, and collecting seashells, and painting while listening to Dolly Parton. Tamara's personality is as bright and colorful as her paintings. Tamara loves family. She feels as though they are the true meaning and source of joy. And she does her best to share that joy with others. Tamara is also an avid amateur genealogist, scouring records of a bygone age to trace her family lineage. She does this not just for her family, but for others too. With a big celebration for her 50th birthday behind her, Tamara receives a fantastic gift from her parents: a 4-day cruise to the Bahamas. And Tamara's not going alone. Her longtime partner and love, Eric Newman, is joining her. Eric Newman went to college at Washburn University and lived in Topeka, Kansas. He's worked as a heavy equipment operator for over 16 years. Tamara and Eric both love family and getting together. He fits right into the ethos by which Tamara lives her life. Tamara's gift of an all-expense cruise could not have come at a better time, giving Tamara a much-needed break she deserves.
Social work can be a taxing career even for a professor. The subject matter is never light. So it's no secret that taking time for themselves would be something necessary. A lot of people every year take cruises because they don't have to plan anything. It's an all-in-one vacation. So this may just be what the doctor ordered.
Tamara and Eric have arrived at their room, and it's everything she could hope for. What better way to celebrate her accomplished milestone birthday than on a fantastic ship with the love of her life? The wait is over, and the start of an exciting vacation adventure is finally here for the couple. Tamara and Eric go down to enjoy some of the fine dining available on the ship. One of the things people love about traveling on a cruise ship is that the food is top-notch. Offered free of charge in the main dining rooms, there is always something on the passenger's menu. And when it's your birthday, there can be even more.
If you already like cruises, maybe going on your birthday is the best time to go. They do a lot of different things to make sure that you have a really special day. They sing happy birthday to you. Sometimes you can get your name in the daily schedule. They do all these things just to make sure that you feel like a very important person.
Enjoying the nightlife on the ship, Tamara and Eric visit bars and lounges all over the boat. One of the great things about cruise ships is that they always have lots of entertainment to keep their guests busy. Featuring a variety of options to suit different types of seafarers. After a day of imbibing, Tamara Tucker decides to head to bed, leaving partner Eric Newman alone in one of the ship's many lounges. Little does Tamara know, this will be her last night on Earth. The events that lead up to this tragic moment are shrouded in intrigue. We know that Tamara leaves the bar early, but how does she fall? Is it intentional? Who is the last person to see her? These are the questions we seek to answer. We know that Eric Newman is discovered with her bloodied body on the 11th deck, having fallen from their 14th deck balcony. On January 18, 2018, Tamara Tucker and her longtime love and partner, Eric, are on a 4-day cruise to the Bahamas. On the first night, the dream turns into a nightmare when Tamara's body is found on the 11th deck. Investigators are on scene to figure out how the beloved Miss Tucker has met such a tragic end. The ship's medical team arrive on the scene as soon as possible to try to save Tamara. But they're too late.
This is one of those moments when you realize your life can change in an instant. Just think, only 12 hours earlier, they had all these wonderful plans of relaxing on a Bahamian beach and collecting seashells, being so in love. Who would have thought that it would lead to this so quickly? Tamara loves to travel, and the Bahamas had always been #1 on her list. It's pretty easy to see why. Beautiful white beaches, lots of seashells to collect, plenty of wonderful things to do.
It should be the time of their lives, enjoying the journey to their island destination. But they don't make it that far. Like many cruise goers, Eric and Tamara are hitting the bar pretty hard. On average, passengers consume 4.7 drinks per day.
It wouldn't be inaccurate to suggest that the average American consumes about 4 alcoholic beverages a week. And we also know that the majority of accidents that occur on a cruise ship are alcohol-related. What's surprising is that given the premium prices for alcohol on a cruise ship, the consumption still continues to rise. There's been a recent uptick in the sale of all-inclusive drink packages on cruise ships, and really what that's done is increase the number of intoxicated people on the ship at any given time. This seemingly unfettered access to alcohol really will only lead to trouble.
Since this crime took place in international waters, authorities were called in from the closest port. In this case, it was the Central Detective Unit from Grand Bahama.
Tamara's blood alcohol level is checked after her death, and it comes back as 0.22%.
Alcohol affects everybody differently. But the average person, generally between 0.02 and a 0.06 blood alcohol concentration, is likely just to exhibit lower inhibitions and maybe a slight euphoric feeling. Between 0.06 and 0.1%, the average person starts to lose fine motor skills. They experience decreased judgment, and again, their inhibitions are lowered even more. Once we get up around 0.1% or beyond, between 0.1 and 0.19%, we start to experience severe impairment for the average person. Their vision becomes blurred, gross motor skills, the ability to stand or your general balance becomes grossly impaired. Again, this is for the average person. When we reach between 0.2 and 0.25% alcohol concentration, the subject is likely to experience severe impairment, including very blurred vision, possible blackouts, poor memory, really the inability to stand on their own for the most part. We know Tamara was around 0.22% blood alcohol concentration at this stage, and she would have been experiencing some of these symptoms.
The record shows that Tamara and Eric were served 21 drinks in a 4-hour period. With extreme intoxication established, the options for what could have happened to Tamara open up to several possibilities. If she was blacked out, this could have been an accident, suicide, or she could have been assaulted and not even know it was going on. But who could have done this? What would be their motivation? What could have gone so wrong? An alcohol-fueled altercation? Or could something else have happened? The trouble for the investigative team is to figure out precisely what happened. Tamara Tucker of Lawson, Missouri, is on a birthday cruise with her partner, Eric Newman. Enjoying the amenities of the ship for most of the first day on board, Tamara and Eric take in the lavish meals and the endless supply of alcohol. After consuming 21 drinks in 4 hours with Eric, Tamara heads up to her room to get a much-needed rest. Now, the unthinkable has occurred. Tamara has died, and no one seems to know how it happened. Tamara leaves the Dream Bar, where she was with Eric, at 11:30 p.m. Eric follows her up shortly after that, possibly 10 to 20 minutes later. Cruise ship vacations are tailor-made for leaving your real life behind. But while it's fun to be carefree, sometimes people forget about their personal safety. That's why cruise ships must adhere to guidelines, such as minimum deck railing heights of 42 inches, to keep people from accidentally falling overboard. However, guidelines for minimum railing heights also allow for a 3-inch variance above or below 42 inches.
Even though Tamara had been drinking and her blood alcohol level was quite high, it's unlikely that this played a role in her death based on how the cruise ships are designed. So in cases like this, often the common assumption is maybe the person was suicidal.
The 45 to 64-year-old demographic typically experiences the highest rate of suicides. When looking for a suicidal person, we consider if there's a history of depression, if there's a lack of planning for the future, if there's a sense of hopelessness, loss of connection to family members.
But Tamara doesn't appear to be depressed. In fact, none of those warning signs seem to be apparent in her. She appears to be enjoying her time on the cruise and her life leading up to it. Tamara is often described as someone who has an overwhelming affection, appreciation, and profound love for her relatives. Her family and friends always say she has a love for life. She loves to travel and has varying interests in things like photography. Tamara also isn't someone who feels hopeless or fails to plan for the future either. She's also a fiercely independent woman with no known medical problems to have recently arisen. Working as a professor for 10 years, she is revered as a teacher, mentor, and advocate by her students and coworkers. Finally, Tamara's family relationship is built on solid bedrock. The Tucker clan is a close-knit group that loves to be together and are there for each other. Is this just another unlucky couple staying on the 14th deck? Even though it's called the 14th deck, it is still, in fact, the 13th. Is there any connection to that fabled bad luck floor?
The number 13 has been seen as unlucky in Western culture for thousands of years. One theory is this originates with Judas arriving at the Last Supper as the 13th guest. There's lots of interesting stories that lead credence to this idea of the number 13 being unlucky. Take the Apollo 13, whose mission was aborted on April 13, 1970, or the 13-year-old boy who was struck by lightning on Friday the 13th. Science has a term for this when we look for superstitions to support our own beliefs. It's called confirmation bias. So whether Tamara being on the 13th floor had anything to do with what happened to her is in the eye of the beholder. Were Tamara and Eric the type of people who were prone to believe in superstitions like this? No, they weren't.
With suicide ruled out and superstition summarily dismissed, is it possible that Tamara is assaulted by a stranger before her death? Is it possible that a complete outsider, someone she or Eric have never met before, could be responsible? If so, who would this person be? How would this event have unfolded? Given that the couple are alone, surrounded by strangers, and heavily intoxicated, could an outsider have taken advantage of the situation? On January 18, 2018, Tamara Tucker and her longtime love and partner, Eric, are on a 4-day cruise to the Bahamas. The adventure starts out smoothly, and the couple appear to be enjoying themselves. But then, the journey takes a dark turn. On the first night, the dream turns into a nightmare when Tamara's body is found on the 11th deck. Investigators have arrived and are diligently looking for the cause.
Certainly, when you come across an individual who's had a fall from height and you suspect that the impact injuries have caused her death, we certainly start to think of that as an accidental death instead of a suspicious death. We know that the individual was intoxicated, so there is the suspicion there that what was she doing at the time up on that balcony? Was she horsing around? Was she climbing over? She wasn't of sound mind, being under the influence of alcohol.
While instances of severe crimes on cruise ships are infrequent, unfortunately, they still happen. Of almost 100 incidents reported from 2017 to 2018, 44% were committed by persons not previously known to the victim. Is it plausible that this was the case? Investigators have to look into every aspect of the event to find out what happened.
The job of a security officer is to know how to spot trouble and put a stop to it before it becomes a bigger problem. What most passengers don't know is when you purchase a ticket to a cruise ship, you're actually limiting your rights and waiving the responsibility of the operator, putting yourself at the mercy of 19th century maritime laws. It wasn't until 2010 that cruise ships were required to report serious crimes to the FBI.
Is there another passenger on board who did not have Tamara's best interests at heart? If this is the case, where are the signs of this struggle? Indeed, there should be some evidence to show this happening. Wouldn't Eric have said he saw someone when questioned by authorities? More importantly, wouldn't the ship's security cameras show that someone else enters and exits Tamara's room? These questions can't be properly answered because there's no evidence to support this theory. With Tamara and Eric enjoying their evening, there is never any complaint made with the ship's security about this type of behavior. The supposed stalker is never there. Could this just be another unfortunate mishap on the ship? Did something take Tamara out to the balcony? Was she just enjoying some fresh ocean air? With a 42-inch rail, something must have caught her eye to cause her to lean over. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for her to fall.
The standard set for railing heights in the cruise industry is 42 inches, with a variance of about 3 inches plus or minus. This is because the average person has been determined to have a center of mass of about 42 inches or less. But if someone leans over the railing, someone with Tamara's blood alcohol concentration would already be at risk to fall because of her lack of balance, and the railing would be there to protect her. But if she was to do something intentional, like climb the railing or lean over it, the railing wouldn't be sufficient. There's no telling what was going through Tamara's mind at that time.
With the evidence at hand, the cause of death being blunt force trauma from the fall, the incident seems like a tragic accident. Eric Newman is released by the Bahamian Central Detective Unit. But still, many questions remain unanswered. Given that Tamara is an American citizen, the local authorities then turned the investigation over to the FBI.
In the case of American passengers, the FBI can be called in to conduct an investigation.
Discovering Tamara has died from her tragic fall, her family are devastated. Following Tamara's death, Eric creates social media accounts to honor her. Posting regularly, saying that Tamara was, quote, the love of his life. Things are still raw for the Tucker clan. But a new development in Tamara's death shakes their faith even further. It will test everything they thought they knew. The family are beyond shocked when they receive the news that Eric Newman is charged with second-degree murder in the death of Tamara Tucker. Could Eric be responsible? Could what started as a happy day have concluded with such a dark end? Tamara Tucker and Eric Newman are on a cruise to celebrate Tamara's 50th birthday. Their first day on board is marked by a veritable booze cruise on the high seas, with reports showing they consumed 21 drinks in a 4-hour period. Tamara leaves the bar early that night. Then the unthinkable happens. Tamara dies from a tragic fall. Initially, the Bahamian police believe that it's an accident. What could change that conclusion?
During the investigation and viewing her body, we would be looking for other visible signs that may have caused her death. Is there any defense wounds on her arms or bruises to her body that indicate she hit her head? We would be looking for all of those sort of injuries.
When doing the autopsy on Tamara, the medical examiner noted some strange marks around her neck, and on closer examination, observed petechial hemorrhaging, which are tiny red marks, which are resulting from asphyxia or some other external means of obstructing the airway. The conclusion would be that Tamara was strangled before she fell from the 14th deck.
Initially, no one can believe what they're hearing. How could this be? Eric and Tamara were in love. Continually reaching out to family and friends, even starting a social media account in Tamara's memory in the months following the incident. Eric's posts are liked and shared by friends and relatives of Tamara's. He says things like, "I miss you more than you will ever know. I hope someday soon we can be reunited. Love always and forever." Eric is arrested and charged with second-degree murder on September 5, 2018, 8 months after Tamara's death, with orders to cease contacting her family. Eric maintains his innocence. Eventually, he is released on a $50,000 bond on September 18, 2018.
Evidence begins to mount against Eric. Unbeknownst to Tamara's family, he's got quite the violent history, and a lot of it was targeted towards his ex-partners. He has 4 misdemeanor convictions, and 3 of those involved allegations of strangulation and battery against his ex-fiancée and ex-wife.
But these charges are from the mid-90s, over 20 years ago. Tamara and Eric have been together for 10 years, and they never seem to have any problems. Eric had changed, hadn't he?
It's widely understood that people who abuse others have been victims of abuse themselves. And when you add impairment by alcohol consumption, you're just adding fuel to that fire. Eric Newman has a history of violence with women, with 3 misdemeanor convictions in the state of Kansas, with allegations of battery.
On December 19, 2019, Eric Newman pleads guilty to 1 count of second-degree murder. By piecing together what we know of their fateful trip, we can determine what transpired between Eric and Tamara. What begins as a fun birthday celebration leads to trouble after a combined 21 drinks being served to the couple. We know Tamara left the cruise ship bar at 11:30 p.m. While Eric never has his blood alcohol level checked, ship security confirms he is visibly intoxicated, following her shortly afterwards. With the ship 30 nautical miles from New Smyrna Beach, Florida, Tamara and Eric get into an argument in international waters. As their argument escalates into a physical altercation, the facts indicate that Eric went too far, and based on his previous history of abuse, the pattern repeated itself. In the end, 50-year-old Tamara Tucker of Lawson, Missouri, an advocate and champion of the underrepresented, falls victim to the same circumstances she strived to help others through. Tamara Tucker spent her life helping and educating others to better their lives and become more significant than their circumstances. She was committed to helping train the next generation of social workers to leave a legacy of kindness and caring. Tamara loves life and strives to make it better for everyone she comes into contact with. She dies on January 28, 2018, at the hands of her longtime lover, Eric Newman. Despite 10 years of joy, something happens that night that leads to her death. While we will never know what happened between them, we know that spousal and partner abuse is a crime that occurs 20 times every minute in America. And that is only the reported incidents. Alcohol abuse clouds this horrific crime. When Tamara and Eric leave for their trip, they never imagined that it could end so badly. On the contrary, they go with hope and joy, seeking out the happiest of circumstances. But the results are sobering. Due to extreme drunkenness, Tamara ends up dead. Mr. Newman, already prone to violence, loses his control and resorts to behavior that he thinks he's put behind him, perpetrating the most heinous of crimes. Regardless of what happened that night between them, his actions afterwards to conceal his guilt are appalling. The anguish wrought upon the family, having been tricked into embracing their beloved's murderer, is unspeakable. Whether it's guilt, malice, or self-preservation, we may never know why. But his actions do not go unpunished. In the end, after a guilty plea saying it was an unintentional killing brought on by excessive alcohol use, Eric Newman is sentenced to 12 years in prison for second-degree murder and an $8,500 fine. $8,500, the cost of a life. Not satisfied with the status quo, the Tucker clan has decided to carry on Tamara's legacy and advocate for legislative changes to give a voice to those in abusive relationships. Tamara's life does not have to be lost in vain if a real difference that betters others' lives can be enacted.